Father Yahuwah, we thank thee again for another beautiful day, thy Sabbath set aside for thy glory and our rest. We thank thee for the time of Sabbath day Bible study, to ponder, to think upon thy word, to receive of thee thy wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Grant us the presence of thy being with us. Let the name of Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach keep us and protect us as we seek thy face. As always, cover us by the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach and wash us clean by thy word. In Adonai Yahushua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Today is the 22nd day of the first lunation, weekly Sabbath, as well as the last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. This concludes the entire feast of the spring season. 3 feasts we have observed. The Feast of Passover, which is the 14th day of first lunation, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread begins on the 15th day, and it continues for whole week, 7 days, today being the last day. And in the midst of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the 16th day is the Feast of New Fruit. So Yahushua HaMashiach was crucified on the day 14th as the Passover lamb. He remained in the grave the day of 14th, 15th, and on the third day, 16th day, he is risen. And unleavened bread feast reminds us to take the leaven, which is our carnal nature, out once every year. Now we're not going to have any more feast days until middle of the summer, which is the day of Pentecost. After the 7 Sabbath days are done from the Feast of Unleavened Bread, you count 49 days, so it'll fall in about 3 months from today. And then that Pentecost is the only feast of summer season. And then the fall feast begins on the first new moon of 7th lunation. And that is called Feast of Trumpet. The Feast of Trumpet is not predictable. Nowadays you could predict it, but in the olden times you couldn't predict when was the first day of each lunation, because the first day, the daytime, will be already far spent. You need the appearance of a sliver of a moon to determine that it was the first day, which is catch-22. You wouldn't know it was first day until the first day is over. That's why Feast of Trumpet is always observed 2 days, so that if you miss it first day, you have a second day to catch it. First, Feast of Trumpet is the day that we expect Yahushua HaMashiach to return for the entire earth. If he's going to return this year, it's going to be 7th lunation, first or second day. And the 10th day of 7th lunation is the Day of Atonement. It's the only day in the entire year where children of Yahuwah is commanded to fast. If you ever want to fast, you better fast on the Day of Atonement, 10th day, which is the middle of the week. And then from 15th day of 7th lunation, full moon, just like the unleavened bread feast began on full moon and it ends on a quarter moon on the first lunation. 6 months later, on the 7th lunation, 15th day of 7th lunation, begins the Feast of Sukkot, or Feast of Tabernacle, which is same as ingathering. That's when all the harvest is completed. It's the marriage ceremony. Yahushua HaMashiach, when he returns, he will take his bride to become his wife. 7 days of marriage ceremony. we are concluding today the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And we are studying book of Proverbs. Today is for chapter 30. Proverbs chapter 30. The words of Agur, the son of Yekeh, even the prophecy, the man spake unto Ithiel, even unto Ithiel and Ucal.
Surely I am more brutish than any man, and have not the understanding of a man.
I neither learned wisdom, nor have the knowledge of the holy.
Who hath ascended up into heaven, or descended? Who hath gathered the wind in his fist? Who hath bound the waters in a garment? Who hath established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is his son's name, if thou canst tell?
Every word of Elohim is pure. He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him.
Add thou not unto his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a liar.
Proverbs chapter 30 verse 7. 2 things have I required of thee, deny me them not before I die.
Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me.
Lest I be full, and deny thee, and say, Who is Yahuwah? Or lest I be poor, and steal, and take the name of my Elohim in vain.
10. Accuse not a servant unto his master, lest he curse thee, and thou be found guilty.
There is a generation that curseth their father, and doth not bless their mother.
There is a generation that are pure in their own eyes, and yet is not washed from their filthiness.
Proverbs chapter 30 verse 13. There is a generation, oh how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up.
There is a generation whose teeth are as swords, and their jaw teeth as knives, to devour the poor from off the earth, and the needy from among men.
The horse leech hath 2 daughters, crying, Give, give. There are 3 things that are never satisfied. Yea, 4 things say not, it is enough.
The grave and the barren womb, the earth that is not filled with water, and the fire that saith not, It is enough.
The eye that mocketh at his father, and despiseth to obey his mother. The ravens of the valley shall pick it out, and young eagles shall eat it.
There be 3 things which are too wonderful for me, yea, 4 which I know not.
Proverbs chapter 30 verse 19. The way of an eagle in the air, the way of a serpent upon a rock, the way of a ship in the midst of the sea, and the way of a man with a maid.
Such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eateth and wipeth her mouth, and saith, I have done no wickedness.
For 3 things the earth is disquieted, and for 4 which it cannot bear.
For a servant when he reigneth, and a fool when he is filled with meat.
For an odious woman when she is married, and an handmaid that is heir to her mistress.
There be 4 things which are little upon the earth, but they are exceeding wise.
Proverbs chapter 30 verse 25. The ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their meat in the summer.
The conies are but a feeble folk, yet make they their houses in the rocks.
The locusts have no king, yet go they forth all of them by bands.
The spider taketh hold with her hands, and is in kings' palaces.
There be 3 things which go well, yea, 4 are comely in going.
A lion which is strongest among beasts, and turneth not away for any.
Proverbs chapter 30 verse 31. A greyhound and an he-goat also, and a king against whom there is no rising up.
If thou hast done foolishly in lifting up thyself, or if thou hast thought evil, lay thine hand upon thy mouth.
Surely the churning of milk bringeth forth butter, and the wringing of the nose bringeth forth blood. So the forcing of wrath bringeth forth strife.
Proverbs chapter 30 verse 1. The words of Agur, the son of Yekeh, even the prophecy, The man spake unto Ithiel, even unto Ithiel and Ucal. A lot of biblical scholars have proposed and studied and came up with the theories of who these individuals are. Agur, son of Yeke, and Ithiel and Ucal. I do not propose or pretend to know who they are. But important thing is not who these people are, but what Yahuwah allowed these people to transmit Yahuwah's wisdom. A lot of people spend their time trying to figure out the structure of life without actually having to live in it, which is sad, because even though these construct or structure or the system has some validity and value, if it supports life, oftentimes it takes away from life. For the sake of rigidity or academic knowledge, people have destroyed lives and themselves. I do not want our people to do that. So if you want to find out who these people are, you are more than welcome to do so. But please, don't let it take the focus away from what is truly important. Verse 2, it supports what the Bible is saying here. Surely I am more brutish than any man, and have not the understanding of a man. People who are reading verse 1 are tempted. They are tempted to find out who these individuals are. Yet the very same individual that they want to find out who these people are is saying that I am more brutish than any man, and have not the understanding of a man. I hope you could see the irony. A lot of people think Admiral Isun-shin was a great man. But if you ever get to talk to him in person, he wouldn't consider himself to be a great man. That's where heroism falls apart. The true heroes do not become hero by pretending to be someone who is greater than average person. But after heroism takes place, those Johnny-come-lately, billions of people who is not willing to do what this person has done, they turn him into sanctimonious figure. And they begin to idol worship. And people who supposed to be the most expert in that person takes the leading charge. Pyramidal building. I hope you don't do that. Listen to the author. Well, actually, the author is the Holy Ghost himself. Listen to the penman. He admits, I neither learn wisdom nor have the knowledge of the holy. Yet people who come later than these people, they are eager to find out, who are these people? What difference does it make? Who are these people? Listen to what they are saying. Verse 4, who hath ascended up into heaven, or descended? Who hath gathered the wind in his fist? Who hath bound the waters in a garment? Who hath established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is his son's name, if thou canst tell? How could we know? Unless the Creator himself revealed. We know his name is Yahuwah. His son's name is Yahuwah's salvation, or Yahushua, because he has revealed us. Anyone who is willing to humble himself like this author, Agur. When David was humbled, he was prosperous, he was righteous. But when he became proud, he was destructive, not only to himself, but others around him. he become parasitic, caustic. Verse 5 continues, every word of Elohim is pure. He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. You cannot put your trust in Yahuwah unless you are humble. Because if you're not humble, you cannot repent, neither can you obey. Verse 6, add thou not unto his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a liar. There's nothing that you could add to what Yahuwah has already finished. And this is another way that you'll be able to tell whether the person is walking in Yahuwah's way or not. Verse 7, two things have I required of thee, deny me them not before I die. In this physical life, in this world that we live in, two things. Verse 8, remove far from me vanity and lies. Keep me away from evils, temptations, the wicked one, Satan. And number 2, give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food convenient for me. I don't want to be in abject poverty. Neither do I need to be in luxurious living that takes my life attention away from searching out the matters. Verse 9 continues, lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is Yahuwah? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my Elohim in vain. If you have food to eat, raiment to put on your back, be content. Yahuwah gives us plenty. Plenty to do what is right. Not too much that we end up rotting ourselves, perverting ourselves. The wealth has a tendency to do that. When you have more than what you need, so much more than what you need, the money itself takes a form of a character and begins to rot the possessor thereof. You can't help it. It's the folly of the human nature. Yes, some people could still maintain decency even if he or she becomes multi-billionaire. Yes, but it's a very, very hard thing to do. Because along with the money, along with the riches, come bunch of people. You'll be surprised how these people get shocked and once they become overnight lottery winner. Once the person wins hundreds of millions of dollars, everybody that they have ever known come out of woodwork with hat in their hand asking for donations. Everybody becomes their friends. Every non-for-profit organization call and contact them looking for donations. It's funny how that works. So, how much money should you have? How much wealth? Enough to live. And if you get extra, set it aside quietly for the work of Yahuwah. Do not advertise. Because you're going to invite all these bloodsuckers who have no interest in you, but has a plenty of interest in your money. Because they want that instead of letting you keep it. Verse 10, accuse not a servant unto his master, lest he curse thee, and thou be found guilty. If some person or people you notice are doing wrong thing, leave them alone. It is for you to learn the lesson, not to do what they are doing. Do not accuse of them to their master. It's not your duty to tell their master what they are doing wrong. Verse 11, there is a generation that curses their father and doth not bless their mother. Most people don't get this verse because they don't know what cursing and blessing is. They might say, wait a minute, where is this generation? I know there are perverts. I know there are criminal, wicked sons and daughters who might curse their mother. But most children do not curse their mother. They are kind to their mother. So where is this generation? Well, that's because people don't understand the meaning of the word not blessing or cursing. Cursing literally means to cut asunder, separation. And blessing means being together. That's what literally means. You can't bless anyone unless you're willing to be together with that person. So when people say to each other, God bless you, what they really mean is, God be with you. So let's read that, verse 11, with that understanding. There is a generation that separates themselves from their father. Which generation is this? Our generation. The current generation does this. When they turn 18, 19, 20, 21, they go on their way. They separate their father. They curse their father. They don't curse verbally. They still say, oh, I love you, Dad. But they become thousands of miles away. They live separately. That's a curse. And doth not bless their mother. Not blessing means not being together. Let's continue with this theme. Look at verse 12. There is a generation that are pure in their own eyes, and yet is not washed from their filthiness. This collective group of people which is contemporary to each other. They think they know. This is the problem of every young generation who separate themselves from their parents. They say, our parents' generation, they didn't know what they were doing. We are different. We are native digital generation. Those who are 2, 3, 4 years old are already being accustomed to using smartphone. So they know instinctively how to swipe from left to right or right to left to watch YouTube videos. They don't need to be taught. They know. They are native digital generation. So when they grow up and become 18, 19, 20, you better mark my word. They'll say things like, oh, my parents' generation, they just don't understand computer or IT or social networking, etc. Because no matter how much I try to tell them, it just doesn't come to them. Every generation has that. My generation is generation of tape player. Well, we had a little bit of CD too. But previous generation was a generation of record, LP, long play record. We were the generation of color TV. Our parents' generation were generation of black and white. They played baseball with a wooden bat. We played with aluminum bat. Our tennis rackets were made of composite graphite. Theirs was made out of wood. Different generation. So each new generation says, ours is better. We are pure in our own eyes. Yet, they are not washed from their filthiness. What filthiness? Refusal to bless each other. They refuse to learn from each other's shortcoming. These 4 verses cannot be fully understood or appreciated unless you understand Yahuwah's design intention of Abrahamic covenant. Verse 13 continues. This is a third description of generation. There is a generation, oh how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up. The current generation make very little value. They put very little value in marriage and family and rearing up children, which is oxymoronic, because if their parents' generation had not taken care of this younger generation, they wouldn't even be here. So when they say, oh, I'm beyond this institution of marriage and rearing children, what they are really saying is they don't need to be here in the first place. But they don't realize that. So they deny their own existence in their own pride. And that is the pitfall of Satan. Satan falls into that pitfall every time. He denies the most holy, the most high, Yahuwah Elohim. When he does that, what he's really saying is, I don't need to be here. I shouldn't be here. Their eyelids are lifted up. So they take after their father, Satan, instead of the true father, Yahuwah. Verse 14, there is a generation whose teeth are as swords, and their jaw teeth as knives, to devour the poor from off the earth, and needy from among men. This is not just the individual person or some people. The entire generation does this, because they refuse to be part of Yahuwah's covenant. And they keep on going on, acting in perverse and parasitic way. Verse 15, the horse leech hath 2 daughters, crying, give, give. There are 3 things that are never satisfied. 4 things say not, it is enough. The grave, the death itself, and the barren womb, refuse to have children. The earth that is not filled with water, and the fire that saith not, it is enough. These are all the pictures of death itself, or lack of life. Verse 17, the eye that mocketh at his father, and despiseth to obey his mother, the ravens of the valley shall pluck it out, and the young eagles shall eat it. Sadly, most of the generations, they fall into this category. They mock at his father, and despiseth to obey his mother. Of course, they don't realize that's what they are doing. They think they are doing decent things. After all, I got married myself, got a house, got a job, and that's what my parents want me to do, finish the schooling, become a constructive member of society, so they say. And as you get older, if you have your own children, you want your children to repeat the process again. Go on to college, graduate, get a job, move on, etc., etc. Ditto, right? Keep repeating. But they don't realize that they are mocking with their eyes, and they are despising to obey their mothers when they do that. The very same generation who does this into middle age, when they become old age, they tell their younger generation to go on, live on. They haven't learned the lesson. Jacob, when he sees his grandsons for the very first time, Manasseh and Ephraim, the grandson born into his son of Joseph. Instead of telling Manasseh and Ephraim, go on and be prosperous and live on, right? Go to college, get a job, blah, blah, blah. What does he do? He embraced them, bring them to his fold, and adopts them to be his own sons. Let my name be upon your name for the eternity. That's blessing. Compare that with what people of this generation is doing. They sound so logical. They sound so magnanimous, generous. Yeah, I want my children to spread their wings and go into the world. Be somebody. Go on to bigger and better things. I just can't find any illustration like that in the Bible. At least from the people who are blessed of Yahuwah. Sorry, I can't find it. I could find plenty of opposite. Joseph being sold by his own brethren because of envy. Joseph went into the world, Egypt, but that was not a good thing. It was not with the good intention, honorable intention. It was not so. Daniel being taken captive out of Jerusalem, the country of Judah, southern kingdom of Israel, and taken to Babylon. Go on, go into the world, be somebody. But he was one of the prisoners of war from young age. That's not really encouraging. No wonder people don't understand these passages. Because they don't think they mock with their eye at his father. They don't think they are despising to obey his mother. So they will be shocked when the raven come to pluck their eyes out. When Yahushua tells them, I never knew you. You were following your own desire. You never bothered to listen to what I had to say. But I was listening to my mom and dad. Well, they were told the wrong thing by their previous generation. As a dog returneth to their own vomit, they kept on repeating the folly. And they never say it is enough. Verse 18, there be three things which are too wonderful for me, yea, four which I know not. Verse 19, the way of an eagle in the air, the way of a serpent upon a rock, the way of a ship in the midst of sea, and the way of a man with a maid. These all have a same categorical common theme. It looks as if it cannot move on. You don't see the medium that you are walking on. Eagle in the air. There's nothing supporting the eagle, it seems like. Yet, the eagle flies. The serpent upon a rock. It has no legs. But serpent could climb the rock. Ship in the midst of sea. The ship goes by. And the pathway closes itself. How does the ship go from one place to another? And the way of a man with a maid. Mom and dad, husband and wife come together. Seems like nothing is happening. But if the conception takes place and Yahuwah wills, the new baby, newborn life is given. This is the way. Verse 20 tells you, such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eateth and wipeth her mouth and saith, I have done no wickedness. Because there is no evidence, seemingly, right? Seemingly there is nothing left. It's not like a footstep is left behind after the eagle flies, right? So people say that, oh, what comes naturally to us, what billions of people are doing, children growing up and leaving the nest, is normal. They wipe their mouth. I haven't done anything wrong. Adulterous woman, she eateth and wipeth her mouth and saith, I have done no wickedness. This adulterous woman is nothing but the generation, the humanity herself, following their own knowledge, own wisdom, own intuition. And they end up destroying Yahuwah's plan. Now, people might think that, wow, does this mean that we cannot be geographically separated? That's not true. Yaakov was geographically separated from his father for 20 years. Joseph was geographically separated. You do not necessarily have to live on the same roof in order to be Abrahamic covenant partaker. Think of these global families who run these multi-billion-dollar corporations like Samsung. Lee Jae-yong, he's a little younger than me. He's running Samsung Electronics, which his grandfather Lee Byung-chul started. He could be anywhere in the world, really, running the company. Right? Think about it. They hire 200,000 people. And they got the factories all over the world. They are building huge factory in Vietnam, along with in Korea. All over the world. Now, which person in their right mind will say that Lee Jae-yong has no connection with his father, Lee, who was the son, second son actually, not the oldest, of the original founder, Lee Byung-chul? Which person will say, Lee Jae-yong has no connection with Lee Byung-chul? Are you out of your mind? Of course, all his wealth comes from the fact that they are solidly connected. The originator, Lee Byung-chul, passed away a long time ago. And his son, Lee, is not doing so well health-wise. But you see the structure of Abrahamic covenant being played out there. Lee Jae-yong does not have to eat with his father every day, every meal. I'm certain they live separate houses. But they are bound together. Don't you see that? How are they bound together? This corporation called Samsung, that's how they are bound together. Nothing that ever works in this world works outside of Yahuwah's design. They all have to somehow copycat Yahuwah's design. But these fools, these slaves say, I'm going to do something different than my grandfather did or my father did. Of course, that's why you never become anything. You have no enterprise to build on. You are cursing your father and you refuse to obey your mother. Of course, I'm not saying that Lee family of Samsung is doing threefold accord. No, of course not, because the most important ingredient is missing. They do not honor, they do not praise, they do not obey Yahuwah the Creator. But they are taking the mechanical steps, the recipe of success. I'm getting tired of repeating the same story over and over again. But 99.99% of the people in the world would rather work for a company like Samsung than start one like it in their family. And they are the very same people who are complaining, Samsung, they are doing, they are top 0.1%. We are the 99%. We need to get better treatment, blah, blah, blah. Wait a minute. Why don't you start one like that? Because it's too hard, man. It's too hard. There are plenty of people who try to do, which is build entrepreneurship, build enterprise structure in their lifetime, only to sell it off because their children never participate in it. They do not become a shareholder of that entity. So these people shouldn't complain when everything gets lost. All their efforts just break apart because they refuse to follow Yahuwah's blueprint. Can you imagine Prince Charles of England refusing to be a king? Oh, I don't want to follow this enterprise of a British monarchy, or Prince Andrew or whoever, right? His son, his grandson, etc., right? No, it's too much burden, too much work. I'm not going to be a member of British monarchy. I want to start my own thing. Can you imagine that? Adulterous woman, she eateth and wipeth her mouth, and saith, I have done no wickedness. Then stop complaining when what you fear cometh, when the destruction comes. But these people want to scream and complain all the way, kicking and screaming all the way to their destruction. Verse 21, for 3 things the earth is disquieted, and for 4 which it cannot bear. 22, for a servant when he reigneth. This is why it doesn't happen. Servant does not retain kingship. Even if he somehow got it, it won't last. Why? Because he refused to train up his children. How do you know he refused to train up his children? Watch how he treats his own father. That's how you know. It's ludicrous to think that 40-year-old man could raise up a decent son out of 10-year-old son when 40-year-old man refused to honor his own father of 70 years old. It doesn't work. You either go along with Yahuwah's design, like a zipper tying together, or it's going to break apart. A servant, when he reigneth, he cannot stand. Earth cannot bear it. And a fool, when he is filled with meat. So yes, it is possible for foolish generation temporarily to be wealthy. But it's not going to last. Or verse 23, for an odious woman, when she is married, she does not deserve to be married. It's not going to last. That's why many marriages break apart. And a handmaid that is heir to her mistress. You cannot attain what is not rightfully yours for the eternity. You could keep it for temporarily. You could cheat, steal, and destroy to bring it to your bank account. Temporarily. Maybe your lifetime. But it's not going to persevere through generation. Verse 24, there be 4 things which are little upon the earth, but they are exceeding wise. These are all examples of illustration where the participants are becoming a member or the shareholder of something that is greater, stronger than themselves. Look at verse 25. The ants are a people not strong. Individual ants are nothing. Even in the insect world, okay, ants are not that big an insect. They are not so powerful. But as a whole colony, there is not a single entity, single insect group that is more powerful than the colony of ants. Everything runs if the colony of ants attack. Yet they prepare their meat in the summer. This is a picture of Yahuwah's threefold accord. Who prepares the meat in the summer? Not every member of the colony. but just a few percentage of it. The young and strong ones prepare meat during the summer to feed the entire colony through the winter. Compare that with the grasshoppers. They are stronger in one-on-one individual stance, many times bigger, but they don't have a structure of a mutual support like ant. So they don't make it through the winter, do they? Every grasshopper freezes up and dies off. Verse 26. The conies are but feeble folk, yet make they their houses in the rocks, solid rocks, the structure that is bigger and stronger than individual members are. Lee Jae-yong could never build Samsung alone. No way. He's able to run Samsung Electronics because of what his grandfather and his father has done. Egon could never do it alone. No way. But he was able to be a member of that big structure, big entity, because of what his father has done and what his son is doing. Lee Byung-chul could never do it alone. But he had the support of his sons and his grandson. Grandson was much younger, in his teen ages, right, when Lee Byung-chul passed away. But he knew that long after he's gone, the family, the Lee family, is going to continue to be involved in critical, mission important decision-making processes of running the company. No single person could do everything. Verse 27. The locusts have no king, yet go they forth, all of them by bands. Verse 28. The spider taketh hold with her hands, and is in kings' palaces. Yahuwah's threefold court is a structure that allows frail, futile individual members to outlast the ravages of time. It takes much longer than your lifetime. It takes much more effort than you individually could ever give. That's why most people never receive enduring success. Enduring success, not success. Oh yeah, you could have a success. But how many people get to keep it through generation after generation? How many of these YouTube bloggers do you think will hang around 60, 70 years later? Think about it. But they could if they raise their children properly, right? Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? If they form another Samsung, yes. Or another Hyundai, yes. Or another British monarchy, yes. It could continue. But most of the enterprise started by individuals are just pan in a flesh in a pan. Their lifetime. And they are busy to sell it off. Sell it off. Does not endure. Verse 29. There be three things which go well, yea, four are comely in going. These are the illustrations of what a properly set up structure of Yahuwah supposed to look like. A lion, which is strongest among beasts, and turneth not away for any. A greyhound, and a he-goat also, and a king, against whom there is no rising up. You understand, all of these four things, they are not, they are okay individually, but without their structure, without the mutually supporting structure, support system, they will be worthless. A king alone cannot defeat the enemy, right? king has to have his kingdom behind him. Do you understand? Working in one accord. Lion individually is arguably strongest of the animal kingdom. But even lion cannot fight against an elephant one-on-one. Elephant will crush him. But a pride of lion is a different matter, right? If they have half dozen lioness and lion, they full circle and attack, yeah, even elephant will be in trouble. Verse 32, here comes the conclusion. If thou hast done foolishly in lifting up thyself alone, without the proper supporting structure of your blessing, people who are supposed to be with you throughout the passage of eternity, then you are thinking of evil. Or if thou hast thought evil, that's evil, because it's against Yahuwah's intention, his design. His design is to see every family member to live on for the eternity as a member of threefold accord, Abrahamic covenant, Father, Son, and grandson continuing to move on. But most people don't want to do that. Hence, they end up committing evil. If you have done evil, if thou hast thought evil, lay thine hand upon thy mouth. Repent. Why? Because if you don't, look at verse 33. Surely the churning of milk bringeth forth butter, and the wringing of the nose bringeth forth blood. So the forcing of wrath bringeth forth strife. You're going to be in pain. You'll be treated with your deserving wrath. People might say, well, at least I got to do what I wanted to do. Yeah, if that is only thing that you're happy about, you are content to have lived your individual lifetime of 60, 70, 80 years, and you think that was good enough, by all means, more power to you. Go ahead. Go right ahead. I'm not going to try to stop you. In fact, Yahuwah is not going to try to stop you. Because in your perspective, listen very carefully, a person who says, at least I've done it my way. Frank Sinatra sang that song, right? I climbed the highest mountain. I've done all these things. And I did it my way. Sure. I'm glad that you are content with what you have done or who you have become in your lifetime. And I'm glad that you don't know any better. Because compared to what you are meant to be, 70, 80, 90, 100 years of getting to do what you wanted to do is nothing. Only when you compare with something can human being realize whether they've been shortchanged or whether they've been truly blessed. Do you understand? People complain because they didn't have shoes until they see a man with no feet. That's how it works. Our perspective is not absolute. Yahuwah did not grant us absolute perspective. Not yet. Not yet. Because our bodies are limited. So, I lived my way to the fullest. I lived my life to the fullest. And I could die with the full contentment. I lived like a king and queen. I did everything I wanted to do. Yeah, I got no regrets. Great for you. Great. Good for you. But that 100 years, let's say you lived 100 years. Bible says even if you live 1,000 years many times over. Okay. Let's say you lived several thousand years. Wow, long life, contentment, happy. Only because you don't know what your life eternal was meant to be. That's the only way you could be quote unquote content. Again, men complain that they don't have shoes to wear until they meet man without legs or feet. He has to walk on his hand with the crutches. Oh, at least compared to him, I got strong feet. But opposite is also true. People who used to work hard and be content with the putting food on their table, roof over their head, when they see their neighbor driving a expensive luxury car, all of a sudden it doesn't look so good. Do you understand? That's how humanity's perception works. These people who are saying, oh, this world isn't so bad. Okay, I'm glad that you don't know the eternity. Because had you known the eternity, you wouldn't be content with this pigsty. But I'm glad that you don't have a perception for eternity. The world that Yahuwah intended his children to live on for the eternity. I'm glad that. Yes, Yahuwah is not going to reveal that to the worldly people. And that's a good thing. Because I want to see road opened up. I want to be able to pick up the phone and I want to call. Right? When I pull into gas station and I pick up the pump, I like to see gas come out of that nozzle going into the tank of the car, right? I want these things to be working. If 7.5 billion people realize what a short shaft that they are getting in this world compared to what they were meant to be like, none of those things will be working. Because they won't go to their jobs. Do you understand? Nobody will be working in hospital. Nobody will be working behind the answering system to make sure the electricity turns on. The internet works, right? When you turn on the gas, it comes on. None of those things will be working. Because they'll realize what a pit of iniquity that this world is. There is a reason why Yahuwah does not reveal to the masses the glory of eternity. That's the humanity, nature of humanity. I read you a long time ago this poem called Rich or Hoary, right? Village people were happy, they were working hard, those were diligent men, right? And then this rich man called Rich or Hoary walks by, and then they end up cursing their meat, they kick their dog, right? They hate their work, until when? One quiet evening, Rich or Hoary, the wealthy man of the village, shot a bullet through his head, right? People don't know. They cannot know unless they have some way to compare. When Apostle Paul said that all the glory that I used to know in this world, all the knowledge, all the academic studying, all the connections, political connections that I had, after meeting Yahushua HaMashiach after 17 years, this didn't happen overnight. Okay? He spent 3 years before going to Jerusalem for the first time, and then he spends another 14 years in Arabia by himself. So after 17 years of communication and communion with Yahushua, he says, all the earthly glory is like what? Dung. Pile of dung. I'm glad that Yahuwah allowed billions of worldly people to live in their relative myopic contentment, which is okay. This is why you should never condemn these people. Do not condemn them. Oh, you're going to burn in hell, you wicked sinner. Don't say things like that. If they're happy at what they're doing, leave them alone. Because unless you are given an eye to see the eternity, you're not going to see it. Obviously, this guy, Agar, saw the beauty of Yahuwah's kingdom. That's why he made that prayer. 2 things have I required of thee. Deny me them not before I die. I don't want to fall into temptations and the evil keep far away vanity and remove far from me vanity and lies. And as far as the living for this world, feed me the bread that's convenient to me. Do not make me too poor. Do not make me too rich. Let me just live on. Because we are pilgrimaging through this. We are sojourning through this temporal existence. Our home is not this world. We are in this world, but we are not of this world. That's why all the things that we do, if they work out, great. If they don't, that's great too, as long as we are doing it unto Yahushua HaMashiach. The outcome does not really matter. If you are a child of Yahweh, that is, and if you are given the spiritual discernment to taste what is coming. I hope and pray that you dwell within Yahuwah's structure, His tabernacle. Elohim of Abraham, Elohim of Isaac, Elohim of Jacob. Bless your children. Bless your parents. Love one another. Stay strong. Work the same enterprise, Yahuwah's business. Now things that each company does will change. In the beginning, Samsung was not an electronics company. Did you know that? They started out as a rice seller. It had nothing to do with the electronics. And then they went into construction. And they made a lot of money selling scrap metal after Korean War. This was 1950s and 50 to 53. And after Korean War was over, they used their profit to sell sugar. Nothing of Samsung, right? In fact, Samsung did not have electronic company. They didn't have a semiconductor company until close to 1990s. People think the Samsung Electronics semiconductor, it's the largest semiconductor company in the world. Has been in existence for a long time. No. Barely 30 years. The Samsung Corporation, the business itself, had been in existence for 70 years. So what were they doing for the first 40 years? Anything and everything except the semiconductors, right? So the product lines change. Do you understand? The English monarchy, when they ruled during King Arthur's time, it was a sword and the horse, right? Now it's guns and bombs and planes. Things change, but the structure never changes, right? I hope and pray that you guys don't end up like fools. Oh, I'm gonna do my own thing. Jae-yong, you're not gonna take over Samsung Electronics? Oh no, Dad, I wanna start a startup. Like Tesla. Oh yeah. Or Apple. Yeah, how about that? 200,000 employees is way too many to handle. I want to start small. But your grandfather already did that. He started small. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. If you understood Yahuwah's blessing in Abrahamic covenant, you will never say no to it because payout is uncomparable. You can't compare. Up and down, up and down. Every generation, up and down. As a dog returned to vomit. See, Samsung, 이병철 went like here. From 이병철 to 이건희 went like that. 이건희 to 이재용. They keep growing exponentially. They don't do this. There is a competitor that used to be in existence called Daewoo. Daewoo was a competitor of both Samsung and Hyundai. They were as big as Samsung and Hyundai. But Kim Woo-jung, he didn't have threefold cord. He was one-man band. He was younger than 이병철, older than 이건희. But you never hear about his children. That's the problem. Daewoo became mediocre conglomerate in 70s and 80s, all the way up until 90s. It lasted about one generation, 30 years. But in 1997, when Korea went through financial difficulties, Daewoo collapsed. Over 100,000 people used to work for that corporation. Disappeared. Because you never hear about threefold cord. But Samsung and Hyundai survived. Why? I just told you. Samsung has 이병철, 이건희, and 이재용. Hyundai has 정주영 and 정몽구, and it's the same story. The structure is there. So during the difficult time, they were able to endure. 김우중, one-man band, couldn't. I'm telling you these things because I do not want you to be like the trapped fly, keep beating at his body against the glass pane to get out. Don't do it. Yes, it may take longer time. Doesn't matter. The time means absolutely nothing when your generation continues on for the eternity. But Dad, I want to have a success. I want to have things in my lifetime. Then you are a fool. If 이병철 had an idea like that, he would have never studied Samsung. Do you understand? You have to build for the eternity. It's too bad most people who go to church never get to hear this. Because it's always about that generation. There is a generation. There is a generation. There is a generation. There is a generation. Believe in Jesus Christ and be saved. It's always about individual. They never teach you to build durable, eternal enterprise, which is what Yahuwah wants his people to build. Because the membership into that enterprise is temporal. We only last 100 years at best, right? If the success or failure depends solely on how many years I get to live individually, oh, that's a very shaky ground indeed. Like Daewoo was. Do some Google search and you're going to find out. Daewoo. Daewoo. It was bigger than Samsung. Bigger than Hyundai. But it's gone. I still remember when we were coming to Korea back in early 80s, Samsung and Daewoo, they were making neck and neck. And LG, Lucky Kumsung, they were like neck and neck with appliances, right? And people like the Daewoo products a lot. A lot of these huge construction equipments, heavy duty equipments were built by Daewoo. And people liked the way that Mr. Kim Woo-jung was doing his business. He was quick on his feet. He discovered the opportunity and he would turn into business very quickly. That's how he grew. The company grew like madness. But there was no endurance, no strength. Because it was one man. It was him. I've never seen Mr. Kim Woo-jung's children. Where are they? To be a Christian means a lot more than individually believing in Jesus Christ. If you are given duration in this earth. If you die tonight, then that's okay. You go to heaven. But if you happen to live your rest of your lifetime on the earth, then you have not only privilege, but responsibility and duty to bring up the fruits. You have to work according to Yahuwah's guidance. In other words, you have to start your company, your enterprise based on the Creator's blueprint. And Satan knows this. He hates this blueprint because it's going to destroy his kingdom. Can you imagine every family of Christian family background become strong? Not financially, but spiritually as strong as Samsung and Hyundai. Can you imagine what's going to happen? Huh? Satan's going to be shaking in his boots, right? And fully knowing this, he wants to attack preemptively and destroy. He wants to nip this at bud, right? So please study carefully and love one another. This is why Yahushua's parting message, his last commandment, was to love one another. Stay together for Yahuwah's glory. Don't be like, but I don't get to do what I want to do. Only a fool will say something like that. Because fool only thinks of himself. Thus, he becomes destroyed. He destroys himself. You can never last if you are selfish. You have to stand like conies. Yeah, feeble folks. But they make their houses in the rocks. You have to always be a part of something greater, stronger, more meaningful than your individual self. That way you could say no to temptation. Do you understand that? But fools always put their self-interest at forefront. And Satan just plops them out like eating candy. So what's it gonna be? Many people who go to church read this very same passage. But as long as they refuse to learn the message of threefold cord, Abrahamic covenant, they're never gonna crack this nut. And they think they are, wow, look how great! We are working for Kia and Hyundai that they opened up in Alabama. They are hiring another 10,000 American workers. Woo! Good paying job! Woo! Mr. Jung Ju-young started Hyundai Company shortly after Korean War. He had 6 sons. Every one of sons became part of his business. Jung Mong-gu, the Hyundai automobiles, the president, CEO currently, and his son Jung Eun is going to pick up pretty soon. Jung Mong-gu is the second son. The evidence is everywhere if you know what to look for. I hope and pray that you guys learn from Yahuwah and listen to Yahushua's guidance to build a durable enterprise that's not going to be washed away because of the ravage of time.